That's beautiful.
I moved to New Haven in the Hill section 12 years ago. The tent city was here. They're not bothering anyone. Why is it an issue now?
We need community, particularly because the city is against us. The city is freezing us out, pushing us to the margins, and trying to equate the quality of life in New Haven with disappearing low-income people.
Being homeless, and my home being taken away. So them doing this again is, extending my problem. And to do it without presenting any alternative or solution.
Well, they say they got solutions. They say they got these shelters. What's wrong with the shelter?
Well, most of the shelters have a capacity list. We have to get there. The actual good shelters, Columbus House, everything like that, there's a whole process to get through to that. It's not really effective, especially when you're expecting us to pack up our whole... Understand, we can't bring our entire lives to a shelter. We can't bring all of these clothes, all of these things that we've built, all of these things that we've accumulated. We can't bring all of that to a shelter. And even if we could, how are we supposed to drag and lug that around all over the place? It's not... There was no effective solution put in place. This expediting of it needing to take place sooner rather than later is ridiculous, with no time, no warning. When you evict somebody from a house, they have time.
Like I was telling the gentleman here, it hurts because we all got together as a family here. So I kind of was running everybody here, everybody was straight.
We just want a place to exist legally and without harassment. And when the city had come down, they said that we had met, their demands and that we were fine. And then 2 days later, we were blindsided by remove your property in 72 hours or go to jail.
It's important that we give people who are unhoused resources and supports and not be evicting them. Where are they going to go? Where are folks going to go? People need homes.
Key problems that everybody has is there's not enough shelter beds, especially for women. The shelter beds also, the shelters tend to separate people by, or all of them separate people by sex. So that means that couples and families cannot stay together. The shelters also have very strict regulations about when you can get in and when you need to be out. So for anybody who works a job with a schedule that doesn't allow them to comply to those regulations, it's impossible to live in a shelter. And even if you can get a bed in a shelter, even if you're willing to comply with all of the carceral rules that come with staying in a shelter, you can only stay up to 3 months, and then you're back in the street because there is no housing.
We can stand our ground, okay? We can stay here. I've set up 2 tents right here. And I promise you that whenever the city comes to evict people from here or to clear out all of your possessions or whatever, whether that's today or some other day, I am going to come here and I'm going to tent here and I'm not leaving until they drag me across the field.
That we had about the shower being built.
What's the concern with the shower, just for my own knowledge?
Because it's a permanent structure, and I know that your vision is that this become a permanent site, but it can't be a permanent site.
Well, will the city offer an alternative then?
No. There's shelters that are available.
You made shelter beds for these people because the PR nightmare that it would have been to just come and destroy this without that is something I'm sure you wanted to avoid, which makes sense to me, right?
A lot of people didn't take us up on that too.
Okay. What does that tell you, The cost for what it took to mobilize, there had to be 35 police officers here. I'm sure some of them were overtime. There's a tremendous amount of parks and recreation people. There's people operating heavy machinery. Those are skilled laborers that are expensive, right? When we're talking about the allocation of a limited amount of resources, right? How does this make sense, right? How do my tax
I don't
dollars?
want to spend my money, the city's money on this either, right?
But why?
None of us want to spend our money on
But that's
these
what was
things.
decided to do, right?
Correct, because we were concerned that because there was a lot of activists and people saying they were going to be arrested. I was here, and it wasn't just Mark saying he was going to yesterday. It wasn't Mark that said he was going to be arrested.
But the reason they were doing that was because what's happening here makes no sense, right? Both economically, fiscally, and from like a humanitarian perspective, right? For me, as a tax-paying citizen, small business owner, property owner, for me to watch the amount of resources that you poured into destroying something that didn't cost you very much, was filling a vacuum that was desperately needs to be filled, it doesn't make any fiscal sense to me, right? 35 plus police officers, heavy equipment, skilled laborers. Like, explain how having a 3-to-1 police presence for the amount of people who live in the encampment was a rational economic decision for the municipality.
Well, it would have gone differently if people willingly left and people weren't threatening to be arrested.
I'll move that talk. You may be arrested.
Yeah, somebody's coming to get that. Voluntarily left with police.